Good evening, councillors, officers, members of the public. Before we continue proceedings tonight, the first item of business is to elect a new chair of the Planning Committee North. With that in mind, please may I seek proposers and seconders for councillors for the position of chair. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I'd like to propose Councillor Wendy Brackenbury for chair, please.
Thank you. And seconder.
I'd like to second that, please.
Thank you. Is there any further proposers? Okay, and can I ask councillors, all those in favour of Councillor Brackenbury? Thank you. Councillor Brackenbury is then elected as chair of Planning and North.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this evening. I'll just run through some housekeeping rules before we start. Can I request that mobile phones are either set to silent or switched off for the duration of the meeting, please? All speakers will be introduced by names, members, officers, public speakers prior to speaking. The officers will introduce the committee report and any updates. Then they'll give their report and presentation. Then I'll call speakers to move forward to the public speaking desk, and speakers will have 3 minutes to make a presentation. Then we'll have a member debate, and after which I will recommend what we'll be voting on and seeking a proposer and seconder for a recommendation. And then members will vote on either for, against, or they may wish to abstain. I'll then, as the chair, state the decision that was reached at the end of the voting. So that moves on to agenda item 2. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We've had apologies from councillors Watt, Deering and Riley, with councillors Pandy, Marks and Armour acting as substitutes tonight.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, members' declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest on any of the items?
Yes, Chair, I have a declaration of interest. Item 5 on the agenda, which is the first one we hear, NK/2023/0254. I will leave the room when that's been debated.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of June 2023. Are members happy for me to sign those minutes? Do I have a proposer and a seconder for that? Councillor Smith and Councillor Carter, thank you. So that leads us on to the planning applications, agenda item 5. The first item for debate is November Kilo /2023/0254 4 Church Street, Burton Latimer. And I believe, Ola, you're taking this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. Good evening, everyone. The proposal before you tonight is relates to a clubhouse site on the southeastern side of Burton Latimer. The building is referred to as a conservative club, but the proposal before you tonight relates only to the first floor of the building, which is proposed to be converted to 6-bed house in multiple occupation for 6 individual single residents. And there are other works proposed to the external appearance, exterior of the building and the interior. These include the insertion of a window on the north elevation of the building and provision of cycle spaces and bin stores on the ground floor of the building towards the rear. As you can see from the floor plan, there are 6 individual single units with shared kitchen on the 4th floor. The HMO will be accessed through the existing staircase on the northeast elevation of the building, which is this. There is a secondary fire escape on the other side of the building, which is annotated for fire exit only, which is this. Now, in terms of the issues raised by the proposal, I would like to start with establishing the principle of the development. The development plan, the local plan and the strategic plan, the joint core strategy, seek to resist loss of community facilities in the borough, in North Northants. But the ground floor use of the building is still being retained. Only the 4th floor is affected by this proposal, which is to convert to 6 HMOs. So there's no net loss of community facility in the building. Even if that were to be the case, there are other facilities nearby which are shown on this map. So there's no shortage of community facilities in the area. So therefore, there's no reason to refuse or decline this application in principle. The site also lies within Burton Latimer Conservation Area, and in terms of character and appearance, it is considered that the reuse or the bringing back the 4th floor into beneficial use would enhance and improve preserve the character of the conservation area. There are other works, other external embellishments, including timber boarding to the entrance of the building, which is, as you can see on the picture, on the photograph. So these external works altogether.
Excuse me, could you just speak up a bit? I think some
Sorry.
members of the public are finding it difficult.
So the
to
external
hear.
works
That's
altogether.
better, thank you.
Sorry, together with the refurbishment of the building will enhance the character and appearance of the conservation area. In terms of impact on living conditions and residential standards, it should be borne in mind that the site has authorized use as a function room, social club. So the 4th floor could be brought back into use together with the ground floor use, and this will have far greater amenity impact on the local area in terms of noise and other disturbance generated by the existing authorized use. In terms of parking provision, the proposal comes with no parking provision at all off-site. But in response to highways observations, initial observations, the applicants have prepared a parking survey, which was sent to highways, and they've come back to say the findings of the parking survey are accepted, and there is no objection to the proposal. It should also be borne in mind that the site is very close to the town center with good public transport links. And Burton Latimer, the Church Street itself in Burton Latimer, has on strict parking restrictions, 2 double yellow lines. And together with the fact that this will be occupied by non-family households, single-person household. Traffic generation is not expected to go over and above what the authorized use of the site is. So in that respect, there is a compelling case to consent the application and not refuse it on parking provision grounds. On other matters, the first floor has been redundant for a number of years, and the applicant states that it's been vacant for 10 years or more. So there is a possibility that there are habitats or bat roost there. So it is therefore recommended, apart from the standard conditions, that a condition be imposed to seek preliminary ecological appraisal before the commencement of the works. There are also concerns in terms of the impact of the ground floor use on the proposed HMOs. And in this respect, another condition is recommended, asking for details of sound insulation measures prior to the commencement of the development. At the chair's briefing yesterday, there was a concern raised by regarding the fire escape, which is, as you can see here. So in order not to inconvenience neighboring residents, it is recommended to committee that another condition be imposed to restrict the staircase to fire exit only, to be used in emergency situation, fire outbreak. And that sums up my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call the first speaker, please? Jess Brosnan. Thank you. You have 3 minutes when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to express my family's strong opposition to the proposed development of 4 Church Street into a 6-bed HMO. Our objections stem from several key concerns: highway safety, loss of privacy and light, parking, noise, and the impact of antisocial behaviour in an area protected by a public space protection order. Privacy is of paramount concern. The plan to use the fire escape to access one of the amenity areas results in a total loss of privacy to our garden and into our conservatory, where we spend much of our time. This means the conservatory blinds will have to remain closed, meaning we will be losing light within our house. Highway safety is also at stake. The absence of a public footpath at the proposed entrance poses a huge hazard to those entering and exiting the HMO. This road is on a blind bend and leads to the A6, making it a fast and busy road. The narrow footpaths that are on Church Street already become dangerous for pedestrians and individuals with buggies or people that are disabled on bin day, and introducing additional bins without a dedicated footpath in this area is going to compromise the safety for pedestrians and vehicles further. Parking is a significant concern. The previous residents of 2 Church Street had planning permission rejected for 1 additional bedroom as they could not provide an additional space. Highways acknowledged that the proposed plan would need 6 places. Both of these pieces of information have not been included in the committee report. The parking beat survey was done solely at night in February and does not take into account the difficulties residents face during peak hours in a thriving commercial area with businesses such as shops and restaurants around. Noise disturbance is also another concern. The proposed HMO would increase activity and foot traffic in an already busy area due to the existing Conservative Club, Victoria Pub and the car park that's always full. This will negatively impact the quality of life for residents and increase the risk with no dedicated footpath. Additionally, the proposed development is in the heart of Burton Latimer's Conservation and Public Space Protection Order areas. With its listed properties and historical significance, it demands rigorous protection and preservation. It is well documented by the Home Office's own statistics that HMOs increase antisocial behaviour. The only other HMO in Burton Latimer has had 83% more reports of antisocial behaviour than Church Street. To add another HMO into this area where it's has a public space protection order is counterintuitive and undermines the PSPO that's in place. In conclusion, we urge the Planning Committee to carefully consider the implications of the proposed development on the community, with concerns raised including privacy, loss of light, highway safety, parking, noise, previous refused planning application and the impact on the Public Space Protection Order with antisocial behaviour must be thoroughly addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're spot on. Would you like to just stay there for a moment, please? I'll just see if any members have any points of clarification they'd like to ask you. Thank you. Just question of a clarification. No? Well, thank you very much then. Thank you. Can I ask Claire Salter to... Thank you. And you also have 3 minutes when you're ready.
Hello, I'm representing the occupants of 6 Church Street. 6 Church Street has the connecting fence with the Conservative Club and will be directly affected by this planning request. We would like to object firstly on safe access. At the site of the proposed resident access, there is no pedestrian footpath, meaning residents entering and exiting will be stepping out directly onto the road. They will also, according to plans, be exited entering the property with cycles, raising even further concerns regarding safety. Church Street is a busy main artery road into and out of Burton Latimer and also a main bus route and can be used for direct access to the A6. Cars travel in excess of the speed limit regularly, and due to the location of the entrance and a blind corner, cars can appear incredibly quickly. We currently already have pedestrians taking refuge in our drive, waiting to get past this part of the Conservative Club. Residents would have to lean out of the entrance to have a clear sight of the road in both directions. Finally, when exiting our drive, we are unable to see the proposed entrance until we have committed to the turn, as we have no clear line of sight, so we will not be able to see any residents exiting the property until we have entered the road. Loss of privacy. Due to the planning requesting conversion of the second floor of the Conservative Club, we object to the loss of privacy that this will cause. The proposal has windows that will be facing directly into our drive at both the front and the back of the house, with residents' views of people entering and exiting both the front and back doors, cars entering and exiting the drive, and also clear sight of our back garden and into our garage from the windows. There is also insufficient fencing and lack of screening between 6 Church Street and the Conservative Club, again giving direct access to our property. Parking. There is no plan to provide parking for the residents, and it is stated there is enough available parking in the vicinity to accommodate 6 additional cars. We would question this, as currently are there numerous times, especially in the evenings and weekends, during business hours, where residents and visitors to the local businesses, including pub, hairdressers, vets and restaurants, have been unable to park in the car park and have to resort to parking on local side roads. This has caused congestion and complaints already by residents of these side roads. Can planner provide details of the parking they suggest is available? Finally, what is the requirement for a HMO in this location? HMOs are usually accommodated provided in a location of a specific need, universities, hospitals or a busy business district. Burton Latimer is none of these. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask members if they have any clarification questions they'd like to ask? No? Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I ask? And again, you have 3 minutes when you're ready.
It helps. Sorry about that. First, I would like to say I'm absolutely amazed that there was no reference to the requirement to obtain a certificate for the operation of an HMO. The certificate specifies quite a lot of things and includes fire alarm, exit spaces, etc., etc. None of that is mentioned, which amazes me. The question of car parking is one which has come up on many occasions. The survey, that, if I can call it that was done by the applicant, was done at 2 o'clock on a wet, I think it was wet, February morning. Obviously, at that time of day, there's likely to be spaces in the car park. The Highways Department accept that it was unusual to do a survey at that time, and they are requiring the provision of 6 car parking spaces. The other point on the highways is that whilst Church Street is marked with double yellow lines, so are all the adjacent streets. So there's no opportunity to park in Meeting Lane or anywhere like that. The pavement on Church Street is exceedingly narrow on that side and terminates before you get to the clubhouse. It means that there's absolutely no pavement between the exit or entrance to the premises and the bus stop, which is on the other side of the premises. That, I think, is highly dangerous, and anyone exiting in a hurry is likely to be run over by transport coming down the road. I should add that Church Street is a relatively busy road. You've got delivery vans going up and down to the Old Vic pub, and obviously you've got funerals and weddings and receptions at the church, which adds to the increase in traffic. The provision or the proposed provision of a wooden cladding to the staircase on that side of the building, I don't believe would pass the fire prevention requirements. And I think it would certainly not enhance the appearance of this building in total. The exit on the other side of the building, which is deemed to be a designated fire exit, lands up in a little fenced-in area. The area is approximately 15 feet by about 30 feet. It does not provide any safe point of assembly in the event of an emergency. And the average depth from a building on fire for an emergency assembly point is approximately a minimum of 20 meters.
Your 3 minutes is up. Could you wrap up, please, what you're saying?
Sorry?
Your 3 minutes is up. Could you please wrap up what you're saying?
I can't hear you say.
Sorry, every speaker has 3 minutes, and your 3 minutes is up. So could I just ask you to wrap up? You can wrap up, finish your sentence, what you were saying.
I apologise. In closing, I would simply ask you to give it serious consideration to not approving this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about the 3 minutes.
It's all right. It's all right. In case members have any questions of clarification of anything you've said. Anything from members? No? Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I ask Councillor Jenny Davies to come forward? Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
Again, when you're ready, you have 3 minutes as well.
Okay, thank you. Some of it's already been said, but I think it needs stressing that Church Street is very, very narrow. If there is a picture that actually shows the entrance to the proposed entrance to the HMO, I think that would illustrate it extremely well. That is sort of side on, but it shows the entrance is just the other side of the right-angled piece, and it comes out onto double yellow lines, and there is no pavement at all. And this is a bus route, and it's quite a busy road. The Town Council has had a whole series, a constant stream of complaints about the parking and about the difficulties of people manoeuvring in this road. And these complaints have always been accepted as being perfectly valid, but given the nature of the road and the age of the road itself and the buildings, it was never been possible to do anything about it, and this would undoubtedly make matters worse. The parking stress survey, so-called, is completely irrelevant because of the time that it was taken. And if anybody would like to see what Church Street actually looks like, I have brought along a couple of photographs which I'm happy to leave with you, and I can assure you they were not taken in the middle of the night, unlike the photographs that were attached to the planning application on the website. Highways Authority said there was a need for 6 parking spaces. These cannot be provided since there's talk of using the parking spaces in the large car park, but that's always full and you cannot guarantee it. Under HMO rules, as I understand it, in an HMO occupied by 6 to 10 people, there must be a kitchen of a minimum size of 10 square metres, and there must be an additional living room or dining room with a minimum size of 16.5 square metres or a kitchen diner. Now, I don't know the size of many of the rooms because I haven't found anywhere in the website where the size of the rooms was shown, but I think that square is a kitchen, but there is no living room at all, and the kitchen doesn't look any bigger than the bedrooms on there, but it is a drawing and may not be very well drawn to scale. It seems to me that people will not have very much in the way of amenity. There is no concern apparently for how dustbins would be placed on bin collection day. That may sound like a trivial matter to some people, but it's not if you're driving along there, and certainly if you're riding along there in a mobility scooter. Local residents are entitled to privacy and to the peaceful enjoyment of their homes. The use of this one area would mean somebody was overlooked. And when this matter was considered by Burton Latimer Town Council...
Your 3 minutes is up, so could you just wrap up?
Yes,
I'll let you wrap up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. When it was considered by Burton Latimer's Town Council, many people, 14 people, turned up to make their views clear, and I think that the objections on the website clarify what people feel about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you just remain there if members have any clarification questions?
There's photographs there if anybody wants them.
No, thank you very much. There's no... Thank you. Councillor Jan O'Hara. And again, you've got 3 minutes. I'm sure you know that.
Thank you. Before I start, Chair, may I ask, is there a better photograph that actually shows the entrance? Because the photograph that's up is actually only showing the side entrance, which is the members' entrance to the club. It is not showing the entrance to the actual, the entrance that the residents will use. That entrance there is the entrance to the club, as far as I'm aware. It's not the entrance to the actual rooms above. The entrance to the room above is the other side of the building, and it comes straight out onto the road. And I think members will have been sent a photograph of that actual entrance individually. Is there a better picture?
Officer. We're just looking.
Chair, if it helps, there was a photograph sent in that was sent to all members that might be more useful.
Can access that, can we? So is that sent to members?
Yeah, sent to all members, I believe.
Not officers?
No, I don't believe so. It's just that I believe that would give a better picture of how dangerous this entrance and exit will be to proposed residents.
Is able to pinpoint on the boards up there to show clearly to members where the entrance is?
Those photographs are not accessible from my system.
Got an iPad.
Sorry, we haven't at the moment, but members will have had access online.
May I ask, have members seen that photograph then, please? Because it's important.
Sorry, Chair. I think members probably looked on the drawings, hopefully, which is on the website. But I think that what the drawings are there shows what we've got on the main drawings. Yeah. So I think the access point probably... It's
clear on the drawings.
In
fact, we haven't got that photo to show
Chair,
on
Chair,
the
with
thing,
respect, the drawings might show where the exit and entrance is, but it doesn't show how dangerous it is. It goes straight out onto a main road.
I do recall seeing that photo, but I don't. Are we able to put that up on the screen or not? Right, okay. I think speech, and members have seen that because it came out to all members. I do know that.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
I've
As long as
seen
they've
it as
seen
well.
it and they appreciate how
Thank you.
dangerous it is, that's fine. Anyway, I am quite saddened to be attending this meeting. Why? Because we have before us an application for a HMO in a conservation area, which is also encompassed by a public space protection order. I'm trusting that having read the report together with residents' observations, you can see that the application is wholly inappropriate in terms of planning legislation. It is out of character for the area. It's also life-threatening exit from living quarters directly onto a busy main road just off a blind bend, as you've seen on the main picture that was put up earlier. There is no parking on site. This is necessary. It says there must be 6 parking spaces. They cannot magic these 6 parking spaces. The double yellow lines abound this area, and the car park opposite is utilised by a variety of visitors to the Old Vic pub and also the restaurants and other businesses along the high street, i.e. they are all short-term and there is no overnight parking. The above are both highways concerns. The fire safety issue has an exit into a main road, and the fire exit escape is to a small enclosed area. There is no way out of that small enclosed area. In fact, the area next to it is so overgrown, the weeds are up to the window height. The kitchen is small, and it itself is not regulated, does not comply with regulatory requirements. There's problems with overlooking into a main room and garden. As councillors, we have a duty to assist residents and at times advocate on their behalf for the best possible outcome. This committee has the chance to do that this evening. Developing a HMO in a residential area neither helps neighbours nor the potential users of the HMO, who will each have a different story to tell as to how they ended up in a small bedroom having to share a kitchen with a plethora of strangers. We at North Northants Council should be enabling and empowering those who find themselves forced to exist in a HMO. We as councillors are forward-thinking and want to future-proof developments to build affordable homes that people can turn into a real home. This development does not do this. Please vote against the application for the benefit of present and future generations. Let's ensure we build homes that are fit for purpose and engender good mental health. Oppose on material planning considerations, which include highways, parking, out of character in a conservation area, and not just fit for purpose. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. Could you just stay there for a minute, see if members have any questions of clarification for you? No? No, thank you.
Thanks.
Greg Tompkins. Yeah, thank you. And I understand we're giving you 9 minutes because we've had 3 objections. So if you wish, you've got 9 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. My name is Greg Tompkins. I'm one of the new owners, and I've lived in Burton Latimer all my life. Our application seeks to convert the first floor into a residential, and the ground floor members will stay as is and will be secured into the future of the proposals. The site is in poor state of repair, and so the proposal involves some considerable amounts of internal work to bring the spaces up to scratch. Other than the staircase to the side and the replacement windows, we will not be making any other changes to the outside of the building apart from repairs, like mortar repairs and stuff like that to keep the building good. On this note, we are considering replacing all of the fence surrounding the property, but we have to wait for planning on this one because we don't own the fence. The neighbour at the back of the property does, and they don't have the money to renew it. That's why there's holes everywhere. As a case surveyor is set out in the report, we have done everything asked for to ensure that the scheme meets the requirements of the development plan, and feel that the end result in the scheme is that we will have no negative impacts, but will bring an existing building back into proper use. We will deliver 6 new bedrooms to the site, a type of residential unit that is in high demand currently due to the housing crisis and cost of living crisis. The scheme would not have a negative impact on the conservation area or nearby buildings. it would provide suitable accommodation in a way that would not cause any loss of amenity in next door properties. We've proven with the parking stress survey that there is enough parking in the area to meet the needs of the development, and the highways team have no objections against the proposals. We therefore ask you to look favourably on the proposal, as the case officer has done, and grant planning permission. Thank you for your time. Just to add, the entrance that is on the top left, that's the proposed entrance that we put forward, and there was no oppositions, but if you can go to the picture that shows the front of the building again, that's actually a gate on that right hand side. So we was going to propose to do an alleyway to go round the back, but we thought it was intruding too much on the other neighbours. These people were always walking around that side, and it is to go straight across from the car park. That's the reason it stayed as that, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can you just stay there in case members have any questions of clarification? Do any members have? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. There's 6 rooms. Are they all en suite?
Yes.
Well,
we're not
according to one of the drawings
yeah.
I just saw, one of them wasn't en suite. So unless there's a
the
mistake,
the ensuite's opposite it.
Sorry, say again.
So the ensuite's opposite it. So there's a bedroom and the ensuite's outside it. So it's got
is there a wall separating the ensuite?
Yeah, but it's only for that room. So it's for them.
Right. So
it's
sort of really not en suite then, is it?
No, there's 2. Because there's 2 rooms in a set. If you go back to it there, see the 2 there. So the one on the left will have its own ensuite to the left, and the one on the right will have its own ensuite directly opposite.
Okay.
But they can be joined together, but we thought it would just look like it was nice to lay out like that.
Okay, thank you.
That's
That's enough.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Councillor Best.
Thank you, Chair. You may not have thought this far forward, maybe you have. Are you planning on charging market rents for these or affordable rents?
Excuse me, it's just, it's just questions of clarification, not further questions.
Okay.
No, we haven't even thought about that. We've just gone for HMOs because of the council said wanted them.
Thank you.
That's all it is.
Thank you, Chair. On your 3D drawing, what you got, it says 2 laundry rooms. Now, is that just a mistake?
Sorry, this is just
believe
clarification from the...
Sorry, I believe that's the kitchen on the left-hand side, and then the laundry room is in the middle, just opposite with the curved wall. Can you see it? Is that right? Sorry.
From members of questions? Thank you very much.
All right, sorry. Thank you for your time.
So I'll open this up to the floor for members to debate. Councillor Carter.
Thank you. I'm surprised there's no police report on this, especially with antisocial behaviour. Was the police ever contacted?
They were consulted, but we received no response from them.
Of course.
Sorry, but I know that, but didn't nobody chase them back up just to get that come through? Because surely the residents are quite, you can see, concerned about that.
No, we didn't. But they were formally consulted and we received no response.
If they don't respond, there's not much we can do. We can ask again, but yeah.
Chair, can I just add one thing in response to some of the points raised by residents? In establishing HMOs, there are several processes. Planning is the first stage. They will still need, if they get planning permission, they will still have to apply to environmental health licensing unit to check whether the layout complies with the regulations. But as far as planning is concerned, development management, there are no applicable standards in terms of room sizes and all that. But looking at the proposal, the floor layout, I take it and I believe that the floor plans, the floor layout, the size, room sizes, and the kitchen provision all comply with the environmental health licensing standards. Their standard says that where single occupation HMOs are proposed, they don't need to provide a lobby or living room. All they need to provide is a kitchen, which is suitable in this instance. The kitchen is 15 square meters, which is suitable for 6 single people residing there.
Thank you. So, again, as I know there were a number of concerns regarding room size and certificate, but as we've just heard, we're just looking at the planning merits, not the, it will have to go to further for certificate. Councillor Dell.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask a couple of questions of the lawyer or the Development Services. Number one, the bin storage. Obviously, it's got bin storage, but I'm not. This hasn't come up in a planning meeting that I've been in before. But is there a requirement to have space to put the bins out for the bin man? Is that part of the part of that? Do you want to answer that first, and then I'll come back to the others?
The waste management team were consulted, and there is no objections. Can I just say that the bin stores are located here? These are the bin stores. And this is And these are cycle spaces opposite the bin stores. And waste management have looked at this, and there is no objection. They are satisfied with the provision and the siting, which is within 10 meters of the highway anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have another question? Or
yes, I mean it's nice that it's great that there's cycle storage, and I know it's one of the conditions is the bus mega rider, but I'm not sure, that might be a little bit optimistic to hope that all of the residents that eventually move in there don't have cars. Obviously, at some point in the future that might be a possibility, but I don't think it's right now. And parking has been the number one, I think, issue for a lot of the people here. I know the Parking Beat survey seems to imply that there isn't going to be an issue with parking, so I'm just wondering if you can give a bit more information about that. But thirdly, the loss of privacy to both the neighbours is a real concern of mine. You know, the fact those stairs are going to be able to see into people's property, which I don't think is a really...
Thank you. I think the highways is addressed within the report, because the survey does identify a number of roads which can accommodate the minimum parking arrangements, but I defer to Ola to answer that. And something I did ask yesterday is if we could condition the fire escape to be for emergency use only, because I do know some terraced properties, people will put pots and maybe sit out there. So we can put a condition if members wish, so to condition that the fire escape is used for emergency purpose only.
Such a condition will meet the tests in National Planning Policy Framework. So it's reasonable to impose that condition, which restricts the use of the fire access.
Thank you. Could you answer the question about the parking as well, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think...
Sorry, I've got you, I'll write you down, but I was just asking the question about parking, if you could answer. The councillor had a question about parking. I didn't quite get the question. Report.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry.
It wasn't as much of a question as a statement about, like, you know, everybody's concerns, but unfortunately I think they're addressed within the Parking Beat survey, and I don't think there's anything we can come back on that, is there?
Because, I mean, we can't do...
No.
Whether...
Happy's not the right word.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you again, Chair. Just to reiterate, I think the most worrying comment I've heard so far about parking, which we know is going to be serious anyway, is the fact that there's no overnight parking facilities for the residents.
No overnight parking for the residents? Yeah. But I think that's addressed in 5.3. Highways don't see a problem and say it'd be difficult to object to the findings of the survey. Councillor Best?
Sorry, yeah, just clarification on, we're talking about the fire escape and the bins and so on, and the fire escape just being for emergency use. Can you just clarify, from that drawing, is the fire escape the stairs at the top of that drawing in green? Okay. Okay, so the stairs at the top of that drawing, shaded pale green, that's the main entrance.
Please put your microphone on when you're speaking, because otherwise it doesn't pick up on the...
There are two access points to the first floor. The first one, which will be used by the future residents of the HMO, is at the top of the drawing. And the one below is the fire exit. You can see it clearly states there, fire exit only. So we can impose a condition if members are minded to approve this, additional condition to restrict the use to fire emergency only.
Okay, I appreciate that, and of course then you've got to rely on future tenants to observe that condition, but thank you.
Councillor Pandy.
Thank you, Chair. My question is again on the entrance. Now I see the photo. It shows that it's opening on the main road. That is one thing. Second, if you see the drawing about the bin, in the backyard, you are showing a lot of bins, and it's for how many? 6 houses, 6 person. At the front, you will see space only for 3. So where other 3 are going to keep their bin, also if they keep their bin out, will they have a space to take their cycle or bicycle inside? And who is going to enforce all these things? Second, your cycle stand is just in front of your bin area. So if your residents are not keeping that tidy, who is going to use their cycle area? Thank you.
The cycle spaces are for residents, for the future occupiers of the HMO. And I cannot comment on the acceptability of the refuse storage area, the bin provisions. But as I said earlier on, Waste Management have looked at this and they've raised no objections, which implies that, you know, their location and their details satisfy the or meet up with their standards. Because they've raised no objection, it's fair to assume that they are happy with the layout.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question. Are these rooms specifically for one person or for a couple?
As far as I know, they are for single people, single households. It's not impossible to think that somebody living there could bring his friend to sleep over. It's quite possible. But as I said earlier on, environmental health licensing unit would assess this as another stage of the process to advise on the desirability or the acceptability of the layout, the room sizes, and all other parameters. So I cannot speculate or second guess the occupiers of the unit, but they would be, or they are described by the applicant as accommodating 6 single occupiers.
Thank you. Jasmine wanted to come in.
Yes, I just want to clarify a few things. Some of the objectors have raised just for members. In front of you, you've got an application to convert a function room to 6-bed HIMO. So the fallback position here is that if it wasn't a HIMO, it'll be a function room. So you have to compare the noise and disturbance, parking, etc., with that function room. You know, should it be repaired and come back into use? So you could get a number of people having clubs or parties, etc. So in terms of noise and disturbance, you have to compare that with 6 people this in paragraph 7.19.
And you're not part of the committee? Sorry, Jasper, could you carry on?
Paragraph 7.19, it does say it's for single occupancy. It meets the space standards. And in terms of the HIMO housing multiple occupation licence, once they receive the planning permission, they can then apply for a HIMO licence from Environmental Health. That's the process. In terms of privacy from the fire escape, as Councillor Brackenbury said, that we could put a condition on that it's used for emergency, for an emergency. But I've also seen where, with to protect privacy, where the side of the fire escape, where they have higher, sort of almost like a fence, so you can't look in, you know, at the higher level, and that's what it is, so people can just go down, and then at the bottom level it's just a normal staircase. So you can produce, ask a design to put something like that as basically a higher sort of level banister along there to protect privacy. In terms of the highway survey, that's been discussed a number of times. The recognised methodology for a highway survey is between 1:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's when all the residents are at home, and you count how many spaces are available. And the survey has shown there's enough spaces on street, although the comments about businesses having during the day, that's a normal churn of a village or a normal town centre type activity where people come for a short while, come to the hairdressers and go, and a new customer comes, and so that's a normal churn of life. But the actual sort of requirement for parking is done. That's a recognised standard way of doing those surveys. In terms of the dangerous access and entrance, that already exists. That would already exist for it's an existing building. As we said, there aren't any changes to the build. You know, it's not a new build. The changes that are being made are the fire escapes and new windows. That's to the external areas. And in terms of planning policy, as officers we have recommended, we do think it accords with planning policy. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions from members?
Thank you, Chair. I hear what Judge Beard's been saying, but I still have great concern about the parking. I actually went to the Old Victoria last Tuesday evening for dinner with friends, and at 6:20 I had the very last space in the car park, and then other friends had to park miles away, and that's at 6:20 on a Tuesday evening. So I should imagine that, you know, the rest of the time it's absolutely heaving during the day and in the evening. I hear what you're saying about it, if it was a social room, there'd be events on, but they wouldn't be every night of the week and all the time, whereas people living there will be. If there's no parking provision and they're going to have their own vehicles, it is going to have a huge impact on the area, because there's an awful lot of yellow lines around there. There are sheltered accommodation behind the Old Vic that's quite a large area of housing, which is, again, a no parking area. So I really do have concerns about this, and the fact that it's on the road, effectively. So yeah, I am still quite concerned about this. Thank you, Chair.
I do hear the concerns, but I think most of them have been addressed in the report, and I don't know if members, you know, the recommendation is to approve this application, and if we do refuse it, we'll need planning reasons to do so. Councillor Best.
I'd like to move that we reject the application. The main reasons, well, the reasons have already been outlined by the Town Council and by the speakers tonight. Privacy, parking. I know Highways have done their assessment, and people will talk about the evidence. My evidence, having looked at Highways, judgments on parking on most previous developments, is that they are proven historically wrong, and I see no reason for that to be different this time. The question of antisocial behaviour was not answered and is clearly a concern for the community. But the most important reason for me is that whilst we do have a housing crisis, HMOs should not be the solution to the housing crisis, and we should not be encouraging them.
Can I just stop? We're actually looking at the application. It's not for us to decide whether we should have HMOs or not. We're looking at the application in front of us, so we've got to look at the planning policies, not whether we think that we should have HMOs or not. So, you know, we need to look at material planning reasons if we want to refuse this application.
I understand that's not a material planning reason, but I think it's relevant.
We need a material planning reason if you want to refuse this application.
What about privacy, parking, and social behaviour, things that have not been adequately answered, I feel, in the report we've got in front of us?
Thank you. Can I ask officers' opinion on that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Conversions of these sort of large buildings often do raise a lot of issues. These are existing buildings within settlements that we have, and one of the things that we have to highlight, and has been highlighted already by officers, is what is material. Planning committee is not being asked, do we like this or not? What we're being asked is, does this accord with our planning policies, or are there material considerations that indicate otherwise? You as decision makers decide how much weight you give those material considerations, but one material consideration is the existing use. So the existing use is a function room. It's completely unrestricted. So that room could be used as a function room every night of the week for 24 hours a day, because there are no restrictions apart from what would be raised by environmental health. So we have to take that into account. We have to take into account the fact that the people using that function room potentially every day would require parking. So we have to take all of that into account when we make a decision. That by law, we have to take that into account. You decide what weight you give it, but you do have to give it some weight.
Thank you. So we've had a proposer to refuse the Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to say thank you for clarifying that. Obviously, for people here, it's not for us to make a decision on how we feel. It's all based on material considerations. So even though I may or may not like this planning application, I have to go with material considerations. So please don't feel that if the vote goes against what you want, that I'm against it or for it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a proposer to refuse the application. I'd want to be clear before we take a vote on what those reasons are, but do we have a seconder?
Sorry, can I add another reason?
Pardon?
Can I add another reason?
Yes.
Yeah, so I've just caught up on the environmental health reports, which a lawyer pointed out to, who actually objects regarding the sound attenuation between the floors. As mentioned, if there's a gig in the function room every night, how are we going to protect those people living above from like low-level bass and things like that? There's got to be some, basically that.
I thought that was conditions. I have seen that's addressed in the conditions.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't have a seconder.
So, Chair, I'm going to second this.
Can we be clear before we vote then what the planning reasons are?
Chair, it's, as outlined, risk of antisocial behaviour, which is not been addressed, parking, which we all know, despite what highways say, will not be adequate. And by the way, you talk about it being a function room. I don't think it would ever be a function room because there's nowhere for the people attending the function to park. Privacy has not been addressed, as far as I know. That's still a major concern by some of the residents. And although we could put restrictions on not being able to stand on the fire escape or whatever, we know that's unlikely to be upheld. And I also think, as we had before when we were looking at the last planning meeting at some affordable housing, the nature of the housing and where it is doesn't fit with the ethic or the ethos of our planning statement.
But we need a material planning reason. So, and I don't think antisocial behaviour, the risk of, because we could say that about any planning application.
Okay, so you go with the last thing I mentioned, which is the ethos of this does not fit with our planning statement and the kind of housing and homes that we want to have in Northamptonshire Council.
That's to do with planning policy. Emma and Ola wanted to speak as well.
I'll just take Councillor Best's reasons for refusal. When you say privacy, what do you mean specifically? Are you talking about overlooking or? Because we have to bear in mind that the windows are existing on the rear elevation and no additional opening or window is being added. So what do you mean by effect on privacy? The adjoining gardens will be overlooked or what? Because they are being overlooked now with the existing building, the way it's laid out and designed.
They're being overlooked, and I suspect have been overlooked for a long time by an empty building. And
which could be brought into use without planning permission.
It could be,
as
but
a
I
club.
don't. Oh, okay.
Because if we go to appeal without reason for refusal, the inspector might award cost against the council because we can't substantiate the harm to privacy.
We do need material planning reasons to object. So can you, before we go to the vote, just say what they are, and if Emma could please comment on that, and then we'll go to the vote. So you've said highways, privacy. Councillor Best.
We've refused previous applications because the type of housing where it was did not fit with the vision that we have in Northants, and that's under one of the planning statements. I forget which one, but we've used that as a reason in previous occasions, and I don't see why we wouldn't use it on this application.
We have to take each planning application on its own merit, so I'm not sure that we could use that, but I will ask officers' advice.
I certainly do not think that that is a planning policy. It's certainly one I haven't seen in any of our plans. Here, the argument can be made that it is needed because you do have young people, etc., who are looking for their first place to live, and what you're doing is denying that because of your, it isn't a planning policy because of your own views, so it has to sort of come from that.
Okay, I withdraw my proposal.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to point something out on the sheet of paper that was in front of us. It says here that the developers, builders have begun work yesterday, despite the application not yet being approved. So a stop order shall be put in place immediately. But looking at 11.3, no development shall commence on site until a scheme for limiting the transmission of noise between the ground floor and the units of accommodation on the first floor of the building has been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. So they've already started work already.
Sorry, if I can just...
Thank you.
Sorry, they can, because it's an empty building without it hasn't got an authorised use at the moment, they can undertake clearing or whatever but they can't actually implement any use. So as the applicant had said, it was about a fence.
Right, yeah, I'm just going by what it says here. I would like to highlight that developers builders began work yesterday. It doesn't specify what sort of work they're doing, so I'm just taking it in general that they've began. So basically, they're just there to tidy the place up at the moment.
Chair.
And if it was building work, I'm sure we could take enforcement action.
Can I just say that the enforcement team have been notified, and following this meeting tonight, if the resolution is to refuse planning permission, the enforcement officers will pursue this and will investigate further.
Thank you. So I've had a refusal, a proposer to refuse withdrawn. Are you still? So do I have a? In that case, then, do I have? The recommendation is that planning permission be approved subject to the conditions, and if we could add the condition about the fire escape being used solely for emergency use only. Are members happy with that? Do I have a proposer and a seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy to propose.
Thank you. So we've got a proposer. Councillor Dizelle proposed. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Armour, thank you very much. All those in favour? Any against? Can you put your hands up clearly, please? So there are more against, are there? Have we got more against than there are? 4 against. 4. So what do we do? Can I, excuse me?
So obviously members need to make a decision on this application tonight. We are the local planning authority, and the applicants and the objectors we need a decision on this application. You have 3 options: to approve, refuse or defer. If we want to defer, there would have to be a specific reason for deferral, but otherwise we do need to make a decision on this application. So if members wish to refuse it, we will need a proposer and seconder and reasons for refusal, please.
Do we have that for members? Any members? No?
We do need a decision from members tonight, please.
Councillor Dizelle?
Thank you. I just want some clarification. How does that work? If I've turned it down...
I'm just asking
and then nobody's
advice. From Office, and that's now, and if we could get that, please.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Could we defer it whilst we get some notification from the police on their take on antisocial behaviour, given that apparently the other HMO in the town has had an 83% rise in police visits? It would be worth just noting what they think, rather than just, you haven't heard anything, so fair enough. I think we do need to have some response from the local police.
So,
sorry, I'll let you.
So you're proposing that we defer the application for officers to pursue the response from the crime and safety officers regarding this application. Okay.
I would second that as well, please.
Right, so we have a proposer and a second to defer on for those reasons. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. So that's deferred to find further information from the police regarding. Thank you. Thank you very much for attending, speakers. So the next item on the agenda is NE/22/00954 outline for Ashfield Main Street in Cotterstock. Right, so I understand the councillor has just stepped out and we're waiting for them to come back. Won't be a moment, sorry about this. That leads us on to NE/22/00954 outline, which is Ashfield Main Street in Cotterstock, and this is for an erection of 1 two-storey detached dwelling, all matters reserved except access. And we have 2 speakers on this, and the first one is Paul Brooker. If you'd like to come forward, Paul. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Paul. This is my first... Sorry, please forgive me. This is my first evening, and it was a bit of a baptism of fire, that one. So, Sonny, if you could give the report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This application seeks outline permission for 1 dwelling. All matters such as appearance, landscaping, layout and scale are not part of this application and will be assessed at the reserved matters stage should permission be granted. Access, however, is committed and forms a part of a consideration under this application. The application site is located on Main Street, Cotterstock, and is the site outlined red on the location plan. The land outlined blue is owned by the applicant and consists of the host dwelling known as Ashfield. The indicative block plan shows the proposed dwelling to be sited in front of the host dwelling, which would be in line with the linear form of development of the settlement. just for clarification for members, that's the host dwelling, and that's the proposed dwelling. This photo provides a viewpoint of directly looking at the site from Main Street. You can see that the existing dwelling being sited considerable distance away. It's that one to the rear. And the existing access, which is this one here, which will serve the host dwelling and remain as part of the application. This photo provides a viewpoint towards the west of the site, which leads to the carriageway out of the settlement. You can see there's 2-storey dwellings either side of the road. This photo provides a viewpoint into the settlement where dwellings can be seen either side of the road. The reason why this application has been brought to committee is due to receiving 7 letters of concerns relating to the key matters, as you can see on the screen. The report addresses these matters and considers that they do not substantiate a reason for refusal. It should be noted that the local and national policies support the principle of development, and highways do not have an objection to the proposed scheme. It is therefore recommended that the proposed development is granted subject to conditions stated within the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now could I ask Paul Brooker from Cotterstock Parish Meeting to come forward? Thank you. And again, when you're ready, you've got 3 minutes, Paul. Yes, please.
Okay. This could be a bit lame after the previous excitement, but the notification for this came through at very short notice, and when the plans first came through a year ago, as you can see, there were a lot of objections locally, and that's because when we devised our village design statement recently, which has now been accepted, this one plot was the one part of Cotterstock where there's a lot of consternation. Gladys and Harold were much-loved members of our community, and they loved the village of Cotterstock, and they made all sorts of promises before they passed away. The land that you see there is held in trust for their surviving daughter, who's been in full-time care for many decades now. There has been a previous planning accepted on this site, and I think most people accept that something will be built. What most people hoped for was an either-or, either the host dwelling or something else. And so I've been asked to come along by local people, local residents, because of the anxiety during the whole process. When the application for permission came through last year rather out of the blue, we were very disappointed, A, that there was no acknowledgement of the work done in the VDS and the recommendations therein, but more specifically, as the details here have noted, the proposers quite deliberately cut down 2 beautiful sycamore trees a matter of days before submitting their application. And given that the VDS was designed to promote sympathetic and carefully considered developments in our village, there's a feeling that this was an unscrupulous application. And what people are most fearful of is that the development will lead to much bigger development in the land you see behind. I'm really impressed with the details that have been pulled together on the paperwork for this, and I think from my point of view, having looked at it in detail, I think this does address most of our local concerns. I note here the assurances given about no such precedent for further development behind, and the meticulous attention to detail in the work done for this meeting. And I commend the case officer for their work here. Having said all that, the fact that there could well be conditions placed on developments ahead of more detailed planning gives me the kind of reassurance I think we need that any future decisions on this will be sympathetic with the wishes of local people as outlined in the VDS. Thank you.
Thank you. It's your 3 minutes up. Thank you very much. Do members, Councillor Smith?
Hello, Paul. I take it then you're happy now, are you?
I represent the immediate neighbours who are very anxious. I personally, having read the details here, am reassured that most of the concerns raised a year ago when the plans were first set out have been addressed. Am I happy? That's probably the wrong word, but my own personal anxieties are largely allayed, and I'm confident that the representatives here are all over it, as we say. And of course, the proof of the pudding will be in the details.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. May, the agent for the applicant. And again, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Laura May, Senior Planning Consultant at Berries, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening for the support to the approval of the planning application. It must be stressed that this is an outline planning application at this stage, so therefore all matters other than access will be determined as part of the reserve matters application. A number of the comments that were raised by locals related to the design guide, and we would hope as part of a reserve matters application, details to do with the appearance, landscaping, layout, features that primarily are included within the design statement will be addressed as part of a reserve matters application. There also has been concern, as was discussed previously, that there is a concern locally that it would create backland development. Obviously, you can see from the plan that the existing bungalow already is away from the frontage of the highway, and therefore we don't believe that it does create backland development, as it is an infill plot within the settlement boundary, whereas the bungalow itself sits outside of the settlement boundary as current. And obviously, any application, any other site, has to be determined on its own merit anyway, so therefore this application wouldn't create any precedent. I think that's pretty much it. If anybody's got any questions or concerns.
Do members have any questions of clarification? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know this site, and I must admit, when I read the report, I did think that the concerns were addressed, and the fact that it's an outline, and I think in the conditions, most of the concerns are addressed. And I do know Cotterstock's a small village, and I know the amount of work that goes into the village design statement. So, but I think that's all addressed when it comes back to reserve matters. So I'll open the floor to comments from members, debate by members. Councillor Smith was first, I think, and then Councillor Sims.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm quite happy to approve the planning permission subject to conditions.
Thank you. Councillor Sims.
Well, what I was going to do. I was going to approve it, so I'm quite happy to second it. And that I think it's an outline application, so therefore reserve matters will be dealt with in the future.
Anybody else wanting to speak? No, so we've got Councillor Dell.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really glad there's a condition about keeping the shrubs, hedges and trees that are already in there, because I think it was quite a cynical move to take those 2 trees down, and I wouldn't like to see anything like that happen to the site in the future.
I agree. I think but the conditions are there, so I think that's helpful. So we have a proposer, we have a seconder. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. That leads us on to agenda item 6, delegated officers report.
No report, Chair.
Thank you. And agenda item 7, exempt items.
No exempt items, Chair.
Thank you. To the close of the meeting, and I thank everyone for coming along and for officers for their work. Thank you very much. Safe journey home.